Good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Morris. I'm the Director of Business Development for Gaming for GTS Distribution. We're here with another one of our retailer to publisher webinars, and I'm very happy to introduce Nathan, whose actual title is Sales Overlord at Ares, one of the best titles I've heard in a long time. We are here with Ares Games. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. A couple of new releases coming out, a couple of things you probably have seen before already and maybe just don't know about the latest information. And as you can see, the word free is splattered all over your screen right now. So I'm sure Nathan will talk a little bit about the program that Ares has going on right now for the month of August. But it's very exciting. Ares has been one of our strongest publishers and one of our best partners for a very long time. I'm really excited to talk about this. I own almost every single game from Ares, and I've had the opportunity to play some of the upcoming new releases we're going to talk about here. And just super fun stuff. High adventure, high, fun, just very good, engaging games, which are really cool. So as always, as I like to remind everybody, everything is on the table, pardon the pun. So you're welcome to ask any questions that you like. If you have never used the Zoom interface before, it's really easy. You can just hover over your main video window. There'll be a little chat bubble in the bottom, and then you can type in a question to either the panelists, which are myself and Nathan, or you can add it to all panelists and attendees so the other retailers will see the question as well. We're happy to answer any kind of questions you have along the way, so let us know and we'll work those in. But other than that, I really do appreciate everybody taking the time to join. Obviously, Nathan, really do appreciate you taking the time to join. Even though you're wearing a Cardinal hat and I'm a Yankee fan, that is totally okay. You're still a good person. But with that, I will kick it over to you and let you get started on stuff.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, good morning, everybody. So first thing we'll talk is our Ares summer deal. I know every single publisher is trying to help you guys out with a certain sort of deal. And this is kind of our little window for this month. We're going to try to do one, for the rest of the year or as long as this, COVID stuff, these challenging times. But basically what this is one per store. If you have a chain, you can do this to multiple stores, but you can buy one of any of these base copies, Wings of Glory, World War I, the Battlestar Galactica, Starship Battles, and Last Friday, and you get the expansion or the ship packs for free. So that's a 30, 40, MSRP value, completely free to you guys for just buying the base games. And all of those base games do pretty well for us. I mean, the Wings of Glory series has been out for, man, it feels like forever, like 10 years, and it's still one of our evergreens. The Battlestar minis just sell themselves. Like, I've had so many customers come up to me and be like, I don't even play the game. I just have the miniatures on my desk. Just the detail on them is really awesome. And then last Friday is just a really good hidden movement, kind of that 80s, Jason and Freddy Krueger kind of. So if you have any kind of themes or want to do something setting up for Halloween, that is a perfect game for that. But yeah, and then also too, to kind of tell my story a little bit. So I'm new I've now worked for about a year with Ares. And at the bottom there is my email. Please reach out if you have any questions or you want to work out some demo copies or something. I know in the past, we're a very small LLC, so here in the States, and a big entity in Italy, so the communication sometimes has, fell through the cracks, and I've been here to hopefully fix that. So that's kind of just to talk about that. But let's get into some other stuff here. So yeah, those are our deals. Let's see. Oh, there we go. All right. So this is kind of the big title that we got coming. Our hope for release date is like maybe second, third week of September. It's supposed to arrive on August 24th. It's called Black Rose Wars. It's made by people that done Dungeonology. I'm just like losing the name. It's right on the tip of my tongue. But anyways, yeah. So. Great miniatures. Like, these miniatures are amazing for this game. In the base, it only comes with 4, but and this is kind of a big deck builder kind of mage arena game. So it's a game where you have to plan out like 4 turns in advance. So it's definitely for those, the people that love to stimulate that brain, to 110. But yeah, very, very good replay. The table presence is awesome on it. I wish I had a better picture here for just to show the table presence. And then it also, so this is just the, the base copy at 90 MSRP. And then we also have an expansion that allows, so the base game only plays to up to 4, 2 to 4, and then the expansion adds 6 players and adds 2 more character miniatures. And then let's see, and then this is kind of, because we're kind of doing a retail pack, because obviously the Ludus Magnus is the company. There we go. So they designed both Dungeonology and Black Rose Wars, and they do really big Kickstarters with a lot of exclusives and stuff like that. This one specifically, we didn't want to do. We tried to get them to avoid a lot of the Kickstarter exclusives, because we find that a lot of customers don't want to bid into the retail if there's things that they aren't available to them. So we try to do more focus on a big retailer pack. So in the base game comes tokens for the enemies, but we have kind of expansion packs that are really just, for looks. It's for the aesthetic, and it's all the miniatures that were in the Kickstarter for all the enemies. And they're 25 MSRP, and these will just sell themselves just because it's just the miniatures. So, you can also get those sales of the people that want stuff for D&D or Path, any sort of tabletop RPG. So you don't need it just for the game. And it's kind of just a look. And it's at least 4 miniatures per box, and at $25, I think that's a great deal, especially on this one, the summoning the demons one. Maybe if I move all this out, but
that's actually a really good point to bring up. We from time to time we dabble into the Kickstarter discussion on here, but when you look at publishers that work with different European companies and bring those games to the US, whether they're Kickstarted or not, there does tend to be sometimes a situation where the base game will be produced and then something like these expansions will be produced as well. But what I've seen a lot in the past is publishers will just kind of lump them all into one big thing and just call it as like, hey, here's this like aesthetic expansion of like, $70 for all these different things. When the reality is while that may appeal to a Kickstarter consumer, that's not what may appeal to a retail consumer. And right. Being able to get the base game and then come back, or at the same time say, oh, we really like the demons, so let's get the demons right now for the 25, and then we'll maybe come back, maybe we'll get the undead and the constructs and things like that. But it gives them more flexibility, I think, from a consumer perspective, and it also gives the retailers some more flexibility in terms of being able to position the right products, right? Because as retailers, generally, especially with the people that are constantly coming to your store, you kind of know what they want and you know what they're looking for. So you may be able to more easily, kind of position the undead with someone who loves, zombies or Walking Dead or anything like that over the others, and kind of help that with the base game. But I think that's really important, because I think a lot of times publishers forget that, there's a difference between a Kickstarter consumer who truthfully is sometimes kind of honed in on nothing but give me miniatures and miniatures and miniatures, and that's all I want. And the retail consumer who is much more of a player than a collector, right? So sure. That's really good to know. I've had the opportunity to play Black Rose Wars. You're not wrong at all about the have to plan like 3 or 4 turns ahead. Yeah. I love complex games. And the thing that I liked about Black Rose Wars is that it's a challenging game, but it's not a complex game, right? There's a lot of decisions that will make you think and go, okay, what is the right thing for me to do in this situation? But it doesn't put you in analysis paralysis where you're so complex that you're like, oh, this is like going to take me 20 minutes to figure out my turn or anything. The other thing too is the deck building aspect of it is super fun and super unique. Very, very rarely does a deck building game make me feel like something different is happening, because it's such a, archetype standard, so to speak, of the industry. Ever since Baccarino came out with Dominion ages ago and everything, everybody and their brothers tried to recreate that kind of magic. But this one really did feel like it didn't feel like a deck building game with miniatures slapped onto it whatsoever. It felt like a deck building game mechanic that helped drive the miniature gameplay on the board, which was super cool. So there was a question from Julio, and I actually don't know the answer to this one because I'm not familiar with the IP that much. But he asked, is this connected to the War of the Roses IP in any form or fashion?
And that I'm not sure either. Ludus Magnus were the designers on that. We're just kind of the, North American distributor for that. But, I will write that down because that's actually...
I'm not familiar enough with
like
the IP to be able to answer that myself. I do think it's original because I want to remember, my brain is telling me that there was some kind of questions like that when it was originally on Kickstarter. But I think it is its own kind of original thing.
Yeah, I would assume so too. I haven't heard anything like that would tail it back to that. So, but so that's kind of the big thing. Like I said, for the people that are new to join, it should be out retail release second week of September. Should be here in the States on August 24th. So usually take 2 weeks to get a release date after that and kind of go from there. So that's Black Rose Wars. That's our next big release. Then we have, let's see, Last Aurora. So this is our newest Pendragon game. This will also, so they're actually having some production issues. We were hoping that we would release this kind of right around the same time as Black Rose Wars, but it looks like that's not going to be the case, and it's going to be more like first week of October. But Last Aurora, I am a huge Mad Max fan, and this is like right there on that alley. Basically, you are in this post-apocalyptic world, and a winter storm is coming, sweeping through the Arctic, and there is a ship that's called the Last Aurora that's basically an icebreaker ship that's cutting through the storm and is going to get you to safety. And so the game plays in a number of rounds where you're in these kind of big kind of like cars and trucks, and you're trying to go as fast as you can through this Arctic to get to the ship before the storm comes. It has these really cool thematic kind of deals with the mechanics that I like. So you're trying to get to the ship as fast as possible, be the first person on the ship. But at the same time, you need to kind of stick around to get supplies and get, the people that are going to get you to the ship, because, you're going to find enemies and stuff like that. And so it's kind of cool in the sense of if you stick around, it makes sense to the theme with the mechanic of if I'm sticking around behind, I'm going to find more gear, but I'm going to be more likely in last place. So I kind of felt that was really cool. I'd love most of Pendragon stuff, but this one, and it's kind of cool. The cards can actually form together into a 4-piece thing, and they all blend together into one. So by the end of the game, your characters get this huge, big, like it almost looks like a semi of just crazy guns, just simply right out of Mad Max is seriously like an understatement.
It's funny that you use that comparison. It's funny. I've played Last Aurora, but I haven't played it in person. I played it over the web with a good friend of mine, and he was one of the people that helped do some videos for the game originally. So we had a copy, and we were playing online. And it was funny because he said to me, he goes, "All right, I'm just going to give you a 1-sentence pitch before we play." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "This is Mad Max meets Car Wars on ice."
Yeah.
I was like, Okay, that sounds awesome. Let's get going, right? So, and it was really really cool. And I believe you may have it on the next slide. There's actually two different expansions for this, right? There's also the additional gameplay expansion and then the miniatures expansion as well, right?
Yes. So that was kind of in that same. So I don't have a slide from it, unfortunately, but
That's okay.
that was kind of in that same vein of the large Kickstarter, but we wanted to split it up in retail, so it was, you know, kind of edible in that fact. So they're not trying to dive into $100 board game. They're going for a $50 thing with 2 mini expansions, you know.
Yeah, and there's I did put the part numbers in for both Black Rose Wars and Last Aurora as well, and I put the expansion ones in there as well. If I understand it right, the one expansion is a gameplay expansion. That's the Athena expansion. And then there's a miniature expansion, which is just basically plastic miniatures for the game, which make it awesome and everything.
Exactly. That's
awesome.
That's exactly what it is. Okay. So now this is kind of backtracking. This is kind of stuff that has been released, you know, since these came out in mostly like June, July time. Besides Sly Bill, Jester's Gambit, which I was thinking probably some people are going to have some questions, and I'll be here to answer it. But so Hard City and Sly Bill are our new games from our newest partner, Hexy Studios. And man, they do some really beautiful artwork. All the cards, miniatures are really, really good. They actually, for the miniatures for Hard City, they did Ludus Magnus, did the miniatures for them. And yeah, both the games at Ludus Magnus, Black Rose Wars, and Dungeonology, great miniatures. Can't stress it enough. Hard City is a great, it's designed by, it's Adam Konopinski. It's Polish, so I have trouble there sometimes with that. But he's also the designer of mini games, but Nemesis being probably the most notable mention. And it kind of actually has some Nemesis vibes, but it's very, very cool. Like, it's basically based off of every, you know, 80s B-rate action film. Basically, it's a 1 versus many co-op or a solo game. So it has a variety of ways to play it, up to 5 players. And you're basically playing officers of Hard City, and you're trying to stop Dr. Zero. And there's about 5 different scenarios in the game. And I think the box on this one really doesn't do the game justice. There's about 30 miniatures in there, and trying to think. Oh, he's right here off to the side. If I could just take a second. There we go. All right. So one of them is this guy, and I mean, this thing, if you can really, you can't really see the detail on it on my screen, but his name's Fubar, and I mean, this miniature is just.
He looks like he walked right out of the Toxic Avenger.
Yeah, and it's kind of so Fubar is what is it? It's it's fucking unimaginable beyond any repair or something like that. It's like it's an old military slang that was kind of put in these, like, you know, these kind of B-rate action movies and sci-fi horror movies. And then Sly Bill is kind of more of a take that family game with really, really simple mechanics. Kind of that Sheriff of Nottingham feel, where you're all you're basically merchants trying to get the best deal in the city. It's semi-cooperative in a sense, because you kind of have to work together to even get the opportunity to get the best deal. But then you have to kind of, if you want to win, you kind of have to stab your friend in the back in the end there to get it, to the actual win. Both really good games. This one, let's see. Yeah, so 35 MSRP for the Sly Bill and 75 MSRP for Hard City. Hard City also has a cool 3 modular boards, and the game box itself on the back here actually turns into part of the board itself, into the old like factory. So that's definitely, if you guys get contact me for a demo, setting up that 5th scenario will definitely get eyes on the game for sure, and setting up those miniatures.
One of the guys made a comment saying that he was having a hard time seeing your camera, so I just grabbed a link real quick and put a picture link for the FUBAR Mini into the chat there. So if anyone wants to click on that, I think that'll actually take you directly to the gentleman who did the 3D modeling for it. So you can check out what it looks like. It's green in the actual box. That image will show gray, but it's actually green in the actual box, and it's definitely a standout for sure. The other thing I wanted to point out real quick, because I had a couple of people ask questions on this, and I did make a comment in chat, but I just want to make sure everybody knew about it. So these are games that have been kind of in and out of stock very quickly for us.
Sure.
And as most people know and have heard me talk about before on this, we try to stock the majority of our board games between Linwood, Washington, St. Louis, Missouri, where Nathan is, and then Jacksonville, Florida, as kind of like the primary hubs for everything. If you don't see anything in your local warehouse, like if you're using a Michigan or a New York or an Arizona or anything like that, definitely check one of those 3 main hubs, Washington, St. Louis, or Jacksonville. But if for any reason you see zeros, definitely contact your rep or let me know, because with the ERP change, we've had a couple of glitches on the website in terms of the stock being reported correctly on there. We've had some games where we've literally had like thousands of them in the warehouse and it shows 0 on the website because the website's just trying to catch up to all the data from the ERP change and everything. So if you do see anything on that that's a concern, let me know, let your rep know. We're happy to help you guys out.
Okay. And then, yeah, Sly Bill, Jester's Gambit. So let's talk about this for just a second. So this is a little expansion, comes with Sly Bill. And so when they sent the order over, they, instead of sending Sly Bill and Sly Bill Jester's Gambit, we got 2 shipments of Sly Bill base copies, with one of them being the Polish edition. So it is on the way to here in the States. The issue being with COVID-19, plane flight is becoming more and more scarce, and so it's having to come by both. So that's adding even more time. But our hope is that very early September that this will be available, and we just want to apologize for all the miscommunication and confusion on that, because it was just kind of a big mess. But it is on the way, and this kind of just adds. If you want to get even more backstabbing with your game, this is the perfect expansion for it. So if you've got players that really like to, turn on their friends, Jester's Gambit is the perfect theme for your store. All right, let's see. Okay, so here we go. Another big title for us. So Horrible Guild. I'm sure most retailers are familiar with a lot of their games. They put out some pretty good stuff. Potion Explosion is a family favorite of ours. Yeah, so we are, again, this is another thing that was a really, really big Kickstarter, and we kind of broke up into a much smaller, kind of try to get it into a retail. Version of it. So the bad guy and all the others are playing as the good guy. This is the exact opposite. One person is playing the good guy and everyone else is playing the villains. It's a very dark kind of cooperative game where you're kind of, as the human player, there's a bunch of different scenarios. I think there's 25 different scenarios that you can choose from just off the base, and the expansions add even more. So tons of miniatures, tons of replayability. If you have any Dead Space fans, the video game IP, this is right up their alley. Or any mutant space, any fans of Alien, that is going to be just right up their alley for that. And it has the core game at 80 MSRP, 2 miniature expansions that also add unique allies. The Avatar expansion adds unique allies and unique human characters, whereas the Deep expansion adds new kind of almost like Cthulhu mythos, kind of like, you know, aliens with giant tentacles and very like kind of octopi look. And then the Alpha expansion is just more just pure aesthetic, adding to what is already in the base game for 15 MSRP.
Yeah, I remember the first time playing alone, and when you say the word dungeon crawler to someone, there's a bit of a stigma that they kind of get in their head, like, okay, this is what it's going to be like. Then you immediately turn around and say, okay, you're the good guy, and we're the bad guys. Like, that kind of flips it on its head immediately. And it was really funny because the people that I played with when we were done, everyone's like, this should have totally been like Alien the board game. And I'm like, yeah, but licenses are not the easiest to get, right? Like, you can't always do that. And one of the things that actually appeals to me is that it is its own kind of sci-fi world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is a pretty in-depth world. I mean, it is not just kind of like a sci-fi theme layered on top of a dungeon crawling game. But the timing thing was a big thing to us. When we were playing, the several of the missions you play, you have a time limit on, and you have to complete them before something happens. So there becomes this moment that while you're already in this kind of horror-themed survival kind of feeling, you're also kind of racing against the clock. And it's funny to see the discussions that came up, at least in my group when we played, of playing a bad guy, trying to do what you need to do, and trying to manage all the times on everything. It was just a really cool experience. And it's one of the few dungeon delving games that once you're done playing, you want to go right to the next scenario, right to the next mission. It's you know, a lot of these games can sometimes be too big and be in that position of, oh, we're done, let's pack it up and we'll play it again on another game night. But because of the timing element of it and the missions not taking like, you know, a 4 or 5 hour evening to play, it gives you that option of, hey, we're done, let's do another one right now, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely thoroughly enjoying this one. I've got a couple of the minis just on my desk, just because I think they're that cool. And I was a big Alien fan, Alien vs. Predator, all that stuff. So, yeah, so that's kind of Alone. That's out now, so that's, you know, you can pick that up. Same with all those expansions and all that. Okay, so then another one we got, this came out in July. These are going to be more for the war gamers. So this is the Phalanx. They came out with 2 games and 1 expansion here. Europe Divided is and both of these are 2-player games. So if you have, and then that expansion that you see there, it allows a solo mode for the Freedom. These are really good 2-player war strategy games. Freedom, especially with, if you have anybody that are history buffs and really play to the mechanics of theme, Freedom is like right there. Like everything kind of makes sense. It's basically a retelling of the siege of Mesogea, which was basically the battle that turned the war of the Greek independence against the Ottoman Empire. And it has like this, at first I was playing and it had this mechanic where, you know, the Ottoman Empire can never go backwards or go sideways. And when I first was playing that, I was like, man, that kind of stinks, you know. But then I kind of, in a, you know, mechanic way, I was thinking, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense because they just want to keep the game pace up. But then as I looked more into it, it just really fits the theme because the Ottoman Empire had this very like never back down mentality. And that's actually kind of what led them to their demise, because they just kept throwing and throwing an infinite amount of units, no matter, you know, if they were just getting their butt handed to them. So very, very cool, great table presence. The maps on both of these games look really, really good. Europe Divided is kind of if the Cold War went further than the Cold War, and so that's kind of a cool asymmetrical strategy game. One player plays the USSR, and then the other player plays the EU. Has a really cool, each player plays very differently, and it's less combat induced and more, it's really all about the political side. So basically trying to get the countries to come on your side by giving them favors or things like that. Very less more combat. And then yes, the Freedom solo mode allows you to play as the Greek insurgents and the Freedom, and yeah, it gives you that soloed mode. So either play by yourself or play with two. And I think right now with quarantine, the smaller groups this is the perfect time to be busting out those smaller group games. So both really, really good 2-player games. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I played anything less than a 4-player game. So
yeah, I know.
It's been quite a while, but
yeah, my partner and I, we tend to play a lot of 2-player games. It's kind of
for sure.
Kind of
2 quick things. Derek asked a question: does Ares maintain a central web location for which retailers can get digital marketing assets such as logos, product pictures, or how to play videos?
Yeah, and no, but if you reach out to me, and I'll, you can either at the bottom there where it says info@aresgames.eu on all of our product pages that you see, you can reach out there. You can also reach out to my personal email, which I'll have at the end of the webinar, but it's basically Nathan.Bischan, my last name, Bischan @aresgames.eu. And again, I'll pull that up. And you can just ask me, and 9 times out of 10, I can send you a folder of a game, of all the pictures from one game that will give you just about anything that you could possibly need for it.
I know the main Ares site does have a download section that has several things available there.
Yeah, so like cover art, things like that. But if you're looking for more like detailed, like miniature stuff, that you just gotta reach out to me at this point. Also, a good thing that kind of some people don't really know about that I like to shout out is on our website as well. We have an upcoming page that kind of talks. Well, that's going to be the first place where you're going to see release dates, when things are projected to come out at certain months. So if you have a question on, you're kind of unsure of when a game's going to come in, that is the best resource. I mean, we try to update that daily. Obviously, with production, COVID, all that stuff, and just the normal board game world, games are coming at all different times. Way after than we expect them.
What are you talking about? Everything's on time.
Yeah, everything's just right on track.
On time,
right?
under budget, everything's easy.
Yeah.
I could actually, as someone who once ran a publisher that did a lot of work with bringing games from Europe to America, I can tell you, Derek, that one of the biggest challenges is each of those publishers that you work with tend to handle graphics in a different way, which makes it a little challenging for that one entity to kind of wrap it all together and pull it all together. But both Christoph and Nathan are super easy to get a hold of and very quick to reply on things. I also did just put a link into the chat for the upcoming products page that you mentioned, Nathan. So if anyone wants to click on that and check it out, you're more than welcome to. And then right next to that, actually on the page, is the downloads page where you can see everything there too. Another question that was sent, and this is kind of, I think, a twofold one. Part I can answer, and then part you can answer. There was a question asked about demos, and we've talked a little bit about it on these webinars over the last couple of weeks. We've seen a lot more retailers shift away from demoing games and shift towards displaying games, where they're still getting a demo copy, but because of people and the amount of people in the store and time, things like that, they've shifted more to just displaying them near the front window or displaying them in cases. And a lot of your games are great for that because they're so three-dimensional, they're so colorful, they're so you want to touch the pieces. You look at them and you're like, I want to play with these games, right? I know Ares is part of our GTS formal demo program, which basically means that you can contact your sales rep. You can get a copy of the base game for 75% off at SRP. You get one game per storefront per year. Not one game, but one per storefront. So you can get a demo of Freedom. You can get a demo of Europe Divided. I know separately, though, you guys also offer the ability for retailers to reach out to you and do demo programs as well. So
yeah, and I think that was, yeah, the demo thing is kind of just more of a blanket statement. Once you guys get the game, you can do whatever you want with it. You know, like whatever you think works for your store, the better, you know. So yeah, if you want to, obviously what Scott said, that deal goes. But if you want to reach out to me or reach out to info@aresgames.eu, that, I mean, it usually will just direct you to me. So you can just cut out the middleman. But yeah, I can usually help out with any copy that you need, especially any older product. Like, let's say you're sitting on a copy of a game that you can't quite sell. I could give you another one to kind of show off to maybe help sell that copy, or, you know, anything new. The thing I will say, you know, is we do a lot of stuff with partners, you know, like the last three with Hexy Studios, Phalanx, you know, Galactica. So anything that's under our partners is a little more hoops to jump through, you know, because we not only have to, you have to go to me, but then I have to go to them, and then they have to come back to me. And, you know, so if there's anything like that, the sooner the better. You can try to reach out to me, and I can get you on a list, you know, to get a copy. But anything that's like Ares, like Wings of Glory, Battlestar Galactica, that's like purely us, 99% of the time I can usually pull to get you whatever you guys need. So that's kind of just how we work around these parts here. But okay, so then the last two things are not out, but there are two biggest titles, and I get millions of questions about these every day. So this is just kind of an update on the two of these. So Ancient Chronicles, second season of Sword and Sorcery. Sword and Sorcery has been doing really, really well for us. It is in production, and things are going really well with it. So as of now, we November to December release date for retail. We're going to do kind of the same thing that we did with Immortal Souls, the first line, doing, you know, a base game and then 3 big box expansions that continue the story. What I think is going to do really well for this is also interchangeable with season 1. So if, you know, they want to take a miniature for season 2 or take a character from season 1 that they had leveled up, they can throw it easily into season 2. And I mean, these boxes are packed with minis that you can put in any game. I'm in a D&D campaign right now, and my DM is using most of the Sword and Sorcery miniatures for his stuff. So, and those 3 expansions will come out later. So this first one is just going to be the base game here in November or December. So that's just kind of what we're hoping there. Another thing to mention, you know, we didn't really do a retail Battle of 5 Armies limited edition. We kind of did that to pre-order just because, you know, it's really hard to convert those limited releases into a retail format where we can make money and you guys can make money as well. But I know that most store owners aren't just owners, they're fans as well. So board games. So I just want to give an update is that we had some tray issues and we're hoping for a November release. So I know some of the retailers were going to use it as had bought it just purely for, you know, showcasing, kind of showing off and not really selling it at their store. So
and I did just look and double checked. I just got a private message sent to me and I double checked it, but the code for Ancient Chronicles, GRPR 102, that is actually not updated yet in our website, so you're probably not going to find it when you search for it, but we will make sure to get that corrected. And again, worst case scenario, it may be the whole deal with the ERP and everything. You can just contact your sales rep and we can get that put together for you.
And this is also, just to clarify, this is kind of a rough, this is not, you know, we haven't sent really almost anything out with this. This is just kind of an update kind of thing.
Sure.
We haven't set any official release date. This is just kind of me speculating and fingers crossed hoping for the best.
Sure.
So, but yeah, just kind of giving an update. And then last, our War of the Ring line. Obviously, we just did a big reprint and it's already sold out within 2 weeks. So obviously, we're doing a whole nother reprint. The Hunt for the Ring is still doing well for us. We should hopefully have a expansion for that as well. Excuse me. It adds new characters, new cards. So same designers as last Friday. So really good hidden movement. And it's that same kind of aspect of the main difference being one person is playing the good player while everyone else is playing, you know, the bad player or the bad players. So really kind of cool in theme. And it's also based off the books. We have the literacy rights. I can never say those words. With the Lord of the Rings. So, you know, it's packed with book stuff, card text, all that stuff. And then War of the Ring. So Kings of Middle-earth, we are hoping for December, or it's probably more likely January of 2021. We've had a lot of, you know, miniature issues and stuff like that with this. This will be the third and final expansion to War of the Ring. And no, we don't have any exact plans for a new limited edition release, but I think my dad always likes to say, if sales are good enough, you can will anything to existence. So, but yeah, hopefully we get that by January. It's going to add sieging and a lot of the bigger characters that were in the books that really had no, you know, weren't really relevant at all in the movies. So very, very big on the book side on this one. But I mean, this is still a great game. Yeah. I think in the top 10 of BGG still. It's been out. Does really, really well for us. I mean, we can't keep it on the shelves. So
yeah, this is definitely an evergreen for us, which is great to see. So
yeah.
We did have a question. I know this is the last slide you have, but there were some questions that came up. If you could run through the promotion again for August and kind of the details on it.
So actually, I knew that there was going to be some late people. So my last slide is also the deal.
Oh, there you go.
Let's go over this again since, you know, I'm usually never on time either. So I totally get that. So yeah, so we're doing our summer deal. This goes all the way from August 30th. So it's the entire month. The deal is one per store. If you have a chain, each of those stores can go and, you know, get one. And basically, you get a base copy of any of these titles, and you get the free 2 free ship packs or 1 free expansion. So it's 30 to 40 MSRP for free to you guys for this whole month. And I guess if you got all 3, it could be 120, you know, MSRP value for free. And kind of just kind of going quickly over the last Friday is a, you know, from the designers of Letters of Whitechapel. So that was like kind of a big, for the unfamiliar, really big hidden movement game that kind of hit the scene. And this is the same designers, kind of puts it into a, you know, very Freddy versus Jason 80s horror film. So it has a very fun theme. We find that this does really well around Halloween, obviously. So this is kind of that perfect time to start stocking up on those. Wings of Glory, you know, this has been out now for almost, you know, 10 years. still an evergreen game for us. We find that the fans, once they get into it, they buy all of them. And there's hundreds of ships between World War I and World War II. There's also a really cool tripod expansion, kind of alien invader thing that we came out last year. So it kind of, if war gamers are not your thing at your store, but they kind of have that, they like the sci-fi aspect, that's also a cool thing to kind of check out. And then the Battlestar Galactica, that does just really well with our miniatures alone. It also does really well with any people that are big into X-Wing or Andromeda. It's in that same, realm. It's a little more, it's going to be a little bit more heavier than your X-Wing or Andromeda. So it's got a little bit more rules that are involved. It kind of plays more to the IP. So it plays really into a kind of more realism of space. There's kinetic energy and, you can't actually stop in space. So you're consistently floating and stuff like that. So yeah, really cool. But those sell on the miniatures alone. I've had so many people come up to me buying all the miniatures just to have on their desk. I mean, it's in really fine detail. Some of the ships even have the pilot code next to their, in really small lettering you can barely make out. I mean, it is just really fine detail. And we're coming out with a whole nother line of new ships. So right now we've got a lot of the New Age Battlestar. The next one we're going to be doing a lot of the earlier season, the one from the 80s. So the Mark 1s, Mark 2s, and 3s. So kind of get to that old school. But,
and yeah, we're just so retailers know, the free items are actually going to ship directly to you guys from Aries. So Christoph and Nathan and I had talked about that in terms of like logistics and how things would work out. So basically what we're going to do is at the end of the month, we're going to gather all the sales reports for all the products for Aries and then get them over to Aries directly. And then they'll be the ones to ship them directly to you guys. So I want to make sure, because there's been a lot of different promotions and deals that we've been doing, but it's always good to kind of make sure retailers know what's going to come when and who's it going to come from.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And also, too, how could I forget? It's also going to come with a promo pack of 50 different promo cards from lines from all of our games that we ever make. And I mean, for those of you who don't know, we put out a ton of games every year, more games than Fantasy Flight. I mean, we are cranking them out. We are a machine. So yeah, pack of 50 different. You can do whatever you want with them. Throw them around the store, or just give them away, however you want to do with it. So that's also going to be attached with that. Also, we're giving in that promo, we're going to give Treebeard, which is a War of the Ring promo in there as well. That's a big promo that a lot of people are constantly looking for and buying and reselling on eBay. So that's just that promo alone will either get some attention to something. So yeah, and then also too, yeah, just to reiterate, that right there at the bottom is my email. Feel free to reach out to me about really anything. If it's something that's not in my ballpark, I can, wheel it off to the next person and get you into contact with somebody that can, answer a question. I deal with all North American sales for Aries, or at least I try to. So you just reach out if you have any questions.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Nathan, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to the retailers. As I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, so to speak, Aries is one of our top partners. Even though you just made the joke of you release so many games per year, you don't scrimp on quality whatsoever. And that's the most amazing thing to me is that, Wings of Glory, like you mentioned, has been around for a long, long time. And the planes are absolutely gorgeous. The new Battlestar Galactica game, like you said, super details on the miniatures and everything. And it kind of leads into a lot of what we talk about on this call, which is brands first, games second. And if you look at the publishers that have been around for a long time, the publishers who have developed their process and developed their operations to a point where they're not just trying to churn out the next game to make ends meet and keep the lights on. They're churning out the next games that are part of lines and part of brands, right? You look at Sword and Sorcery, that's an entire line of games that you can carry, which for me, of all the dungeon delving games, that's my jam. I know a lot of people like Gloomhaven, but man, Sword and Sorcery is right up my alley for everything. But, you know, Battlestar Galactica, its own line as well. Wings of Glory, its own line as well. War of the Ring, its own line. So you're able to lean in more on the concept that, you know, more so than not, the games from Ares are going to be successful in your store. So instead of taking that time to chase down that next hot one deal that, quite frankly, may be done by two guys in a garage and maybe a challenge, you have a lot more things that you can lean into that are steady sellers, both in the industry and more than likely for your store. So it's just really, really good stuff all the way around. So yeah, Nathan, thank you very much. Really do appreciate it. I'll be buying you a Yankee hat for Christmas, so I'll make sure to get that over to you as soon as possible. That's okay, though.
Send some Kansas City barbecue with it. No.
There you go. There you go. There you go. And retailers, thank you. Really do appreciate you all taking the time to join us every week. We're going to be ramping these up a little bit more over the next couple of weeks now that we're kind of at least past the beginning stages of the ERP. But again, if you do run into any issues online on our website, I know a lot of people have asked about like the images are not being updated yet and things like that. Let us know. We're happy to help you out and check out anything that, you know, we either need to fix on our end or anything that can help you guys be more successful with the products. So really do appreciate your time. Nathan, with that, I will let you go. Retailers,
okay.
I hope you have a wonderful week in your store, and thank you so much for joining. Take care.
Take care.